Now recording. Okay. And then I guess, Patty, if you can, maybe just make sure you can see my screen as well. I want to make sure that that is visible also here.
I can't see the screen, but it's probably me. Oh, screen sharing. No, I don't want screen share. I'm going to mute it again, Tim, and figure it out. Oh, now I see it.
Okay.
I see it. I'm going to mute myself again.
Okay. All right. So I think I've got the screen up here, um, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to kick this off here. Okay. So my name's Tim Wilson, and this is a webinar today that we were going to do down in West Palm Beach a couple of weeks ago at the Florida Sunshine Conference that had to be, I guess, abbreviated because of the hurricane. And so we all agreed to come back and do our presentations that we were going to give at the conference here in the form of a webinar. So thank you so much for having me down in Florida, but also for the opportunity to give this webinar here today. I've worked for bedandbreakfast.com now for over 17 years, and I manage our diamond collection program. And one of the things that is very important to me, and I think a big issue for a lot of innkeepers, is just understanding ROI. And so that's what today's webinar is about, is just understanding ROI. I think it's a little complicated for a lot of folks. There's all kinds of different ways to look at your ROI and where your business is coming from. So in today's webinar, we'll try to delve into that a little bit. So this is actually a question from one of the surveys that we've done with our member innkeepers, just trying to gauge, what is it that's a big challenge for our members in terms of marketing their property, and tracking ROI was the number 2 rated answer, and so with number 1 being social media, and then number 3 SEO, number 4 working with the OTAs, and then number 5 taking good photographs. So we'll actually talk about all of these as challenges here in this presentation. So this, I think, does kind of a good example of the fact that all of this really ultimately comes back to the internet. When I first started working for bedandbreakfast.com 17 years ago, we would talk to innkeepers about advertising on bedandbreakfast.com, and people would say things like, gosh, why would I want to do that? I don't want a bunch of computer geeks staying at my property. Well, fast forward now 17 years, and gosh, these days, I think most properties would agree that most of their business is coming to them one way or another by way of the internet. And so I don't think it's that computer geek that's staying with us. It's everyday travelers. And this graphic here kind of gives an example, just in the sense that it all points back to the internet. So what is ROI? The image, I think kind of says it all. You're throwing something out there, throwing, in this case, money out there, in hopes of that money coming back to you in the form of a return. And so this image, I think, shows the boomerang money going out, and then hopefully money coming back in. And ideally, the money coming back in is more than what is going out. And so how do you monitor ROI? This quote here is one we've used for a long time, and I think it also resonates well with innkeepers, and anybody really, but half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half, and I think that is very true here, because I don't think there's a single innkeeper in this world that decided to become an innkeeper so as to acquire themselves a PhD in digital marketing. And so this quote, I think, makes a lot of sense, just because it is so complicated to really understand what is and potentially isn't working for you in terms of your marketing. And so we'll try to make a little bit of sense of that. So the best way, I think, to do this is by using actual scientific data. So in other words, using something like Google's Universal Analytics. I think every innkeeper, probably to ask guests at their property, hey, how did you find out about me? Or, what brought you to my property? And while, that's a good, conversation starter and it's good anecdotal information, it's only giving you a very, very small piece of the overall puzzle, so to speak. So we always say that manual tracking is unavailable, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before. But you ask a guest, "Hey, where did you find me?" Inevitably, they're probably going to respond with one of three things. They're probably going to either say the internet, Google, or TripAdvisor. And so you've got all these other places out there, however, that are showing information about your property. So, is it true that this person just went to the internet, went to Google, and then went to TripAdvisor, and that's how they found out about you? It might be, but I also think there's a lot of missing pieces there, a lot of information that's being left out of that conversation. And so the tracking that Google offers through their Universal Analytics really gets you a lot better information here. And so this is a screenshot of what tracking in Google Analytics looks like. And you can see in this particular example that it actually attributes revenue to a source of the booking. So that's basically the fourth column over there where it says revenue, and starts with the $70,371. And if you kind of go down there, you can see the various sources of revenue. Now, one thing to be clear about is that Google's Universal Analytics here is only tracking the revenue that is booked by way of your booking engine on your website. It's not accounting for bookings that come to you by way of, say, Expedia or the OTAs. It's also not accounting for bookings that come to you over the phone. This is purely just looking at those bookings that you get through your website's booking engine. And so just want to be clear about that. But Google Analytics can show you a lot of great information: the number of visitors to your site, the various sources of those visitors, when they are visiting, how long they stay on your site, what particular pages maybe have a high bounce rate. So maybe you've got a page that isn't working so well for you, and when people get to that page, they end up leaving your site. But the biggest one here is revenue. Because we always say, your traffic shouldn't really matter, because all traffic isn't created equally. And I've got a screenshot coming up here later in this presentation that talks about that. But for example, you might be getting, 1,000 visitors from website A and another 1,000 visitors from website B. But it could be that website A is totally unrelated to lodging and travel. Website B is purely focused on lodging and travel, and so maybe it is that website B, while it's providing the same amount of traffic as website A, it could be converting for you at a much higher rate, in which case those 1,000 visitors are a lot more valuable than the other 1,000 visitors. So using Universal Analytics here, and more specifically this e-commerce or revenue tracking option within Google Analytics, you can actually see which of your various sources is or is not working for you. Now, the only thing that we say that is worse than no data is bad data. So let's be clear, setting this up is complicated. It's not something that you probably want to try to take on yourself. I do recommend working with an expert on setting up Google's Universal Analytics and the revenue tracking. Because it really is, the only thing worse than no data is bad data. And so in this particular example, you can see that it looks a lot different from the other example that we had here. And it's just basically putting all of the revenue and all of the traffic into one of two sources, direct/none or yourinname.com/referral. And so it's not parsing out the traffic and the revenue into the appropriate buckets like it is supposed to. And so this, if your Google Analytics is looking like this, I think there's probably an issue in how your Google Analytics is set up. And so you would want to talk with your webmaster about that, and basically just ask, why am I not seeing the individual sources of revenue and traffic? Why is it lumping it all into one? And that would be the question to ask in this particular example. Here's another example where the tracking is set up correctly. And in this case, you can see that bedandbreakfast.com/referral is sending X number of visitors and producing X amount of revenue. You can see that TripAdvisor.com in a cost per click campaign is providing X amount of traffic and X amount of revenue. And this is just such powerful information because we always say it shouldn't really matter what you spend on advertising. What should matter is what your advertising is doing for you. And so, I always mention this to our members too, but heck, you could be paying bedandbreakfast.com $10,000 a year. And while that seems crazy, if bedandbreakfast.com is sending the right amount of business to warrant that $10,000 expense, it might actually be inexpensive advertising. And on the other hand, you might be spending, just $500 on this other website over here. And, while it may seem like inexpensive advertising, if that $500 isn't actually returning any real revenue to the business, well, then you might actually be wasting $500. And so, again, it shouldn't matter what you spend. What really matters is what you get back. And so that's all about ROI. And again, so this example here shows you the various sources of this particular property's revenue. And it's just, I think, a great way to look at your business and see, okay, I'm spending this amount of money over here, this amount of money over there, this amount of money over there, and what are all of these different expenses doing for me? In other words, what are all of my marketing expenses bringing back to me in the form of revenue? Now, again, just want to be clear that this revenue that you're seeing on this screen, it is only the revenue that is attributed to bookings made through your website's booking engine, okay? And so you're not going to see any revenue that you might be getting from the OTAs here in Google Analytics. You're not going to see any revenue that you might be getting over the phone for an over-the-phone booking here in Google Analytics. And so just know that this is just a portion of the picture, but it's a really, I guess, incredible portion of the picture because it does give you such great data on, again, what is or isn't working for you. So Acorn Internet Services is, I think, one of the more prominent experts in the industry on the world of search engine optimization and website design and hosting and promotion. And they put out a white paper about a month or two ago. And you can see the address here for the white paper. And if anybody would like a copy of this presentation, just send me an email. And in fact, I'll send it to Patty so she can send out to the members there. But this address will be in there. But this is just a screenshot of sort of the first half of the white paper. And you can see, the questions here. How many places do you think your potential guest shops before they decide to book a room with you? Some say it's 13, some say it's 17, some say it's 22 different websites. But the reality here is when you ask your guest, hey, where did you find me? And they tell you, one website, they're, in the best case, leaving out 12 other websites that they might have gone to. In worst case, they're leaving out 21 other websites that influence their decision to stay with you. And so, again, while it feels great and it's a good conversation starter to talk to your guest about how they found you, just know in the back of your mind that it's really only a small slice of the overall picture. Question number 2 here says, so why would you even bother to ask or trust what your guest tells you about where they found you? Bottom line, according to Acorn, is that you shouldn't be asking your guests because they really don't know. And I think that makes a lot of sense. If you put yourself in the traveler's shoes, they're out there doing all of this, aspirational research on the internet, trying to find their perfect getaway and where they might want to go. They're really most likely paying attention to your property as their potential getaway. Probably not paying so much attention to who is presenting that information to them. They're not really concerned with that. They're just thinking about themselves and the getaway that they're looking to book. And so when they're out there browsing around on the internet, they go to 13, 17, 22 different places, all the while not really paying attention to those places, but all the while just focusing on your property and why they might want to stay with you. So it's not so much about who's presenting that information, although you could probably make the case that TripAdvisor is a trusted source when it comes to traveler reviews. And heck, probably most of your guests are going to stop by TripAdvisor in their quest to find their getaway. So I think you could probably always include TripAdvisor as one of these 13, 17, or 22 different websites that people are going to because it has become a household name. It is the largest site in online travel, and people go there to, see what the property looks like in terms of the reviews on TripAdvisor. But this white paper, I think, is amazing. I would love for any of our members, any innkeeper, to check it out because I really think it gives some pretty great insight on why you want to be doing some of this Google Analytics tracking more so than you want to be relying on what your guest tells you. So we've always also been big advocates of Pareto's principle, where you focus your efforts on the 20% of your advertising sources that are producing the 80% of your results. So if you're, again, using Google Analytics, you can see in Google Analytics, okay, which of my internet advertising options here is driving me the most revenue, okay? And then you can focus on optimizing the 20% of those sources to make sure they are firing on all cylinders and sending you every amount of business that they possibly can. Once you've optimized that 20%, then you can start to focus on, the remaining 80% to make sure that, that remaining 80% is still sending you that other 20% of business that the 20% of your larger sources of business aren't sending you. And so, always try and focus on those big ones that are really responsible for driving, so much of your traffic. This is what I was referring to earlier, that it's really not so much all about the traffic as it is about the quality of the traffic. So Site A and Site B are both sending you 1,000 visitors, but Site A is only converting at 1%, whereas Site B is converting at 2%. Site A is providing a lower average dollar amount on the reservation. Site B is a more qualified visitor, so they're spending more money. And so, we always say it's a lot easier to increase conversion than it is to increase your traffic. Because for Site A to perform at the level of Site B, you basically are going to have to get 2.5 times the amount of traffic here. So you would have to get basically 2,500 visits to the site to end up with roughly the same amount of revenue on those 2,500 visitors that those 1,000 Site B are bringing you. Okay, so again, it's not all about traffic. It should be about the actual conversion on that traffic. And so Google's Universal Analytics can help you see, what is converting well, what's converting not so well, what's not converting at all, and then can help you sort of, whittle down your focus on your advertising there. So how can BedAndBreakfast.com help? If you're a member of BedAndBreakfast.com, when you log in to your listing with us using your property ID and your password, you will land on their performance page. And that performance page offers a lot of different data on how your listing with us is performing. So you've got your city page visits, you've got the property page visits, the website click-throughs, inquiries, and so forth. To kind of give you an idea, the property page visits is a big one. That is the number of people that are visiting your detailed listing on BedAndBreakfast.com. And so not necessarily clicking through to your website, they're just going to your detailed property listing with us. Website click-through, that is the number of people we've sent to your website. So in your Google Analytics, the number in this example anyways is 494, and that's from the last month. So when you look in Google Analytics, you should see that the traffic you are getting from BedAndBreakfast.com on a relatively close basis lines up with that 494 clicks that we believe we've sent to you. It's never going to line up perfectly because there are different nuances in how we track traffic versus how Google tracks traffic. If somebody clicks twice within a certain number of minutes, Google might not recognize that, whereas we might recognize that. And there's other different little nuances there that can affect the ways in which numbers are reported. But the bottom line is that the numbers should be relatively close. Just don't expect them to be exactly the same. But you can always log into your home base and you can see what kind of traffic we are reporting to you. Another kind of just side note that I would mention here is on here you'll also see that we've got an option or a metric that we're reporting on that says availability calendar. This particular property has had 20 clicks in the last month to their availability calendar. Well, that is great. The issue with that is, however, is that most of our members have their booking engine link or availability calendar link with us set up as a link directly into that booking engine or availability calendar. So, for example, it'll go directly from bedandbreakfast.com into your reservation.com booking engine link, or your resnexus.com booking engine link, or your thinkreservations.com reservation link. The problem with that is that when someone or when you set up that link that way as a direct link into your booking engine, it is completely bypassing your own website's domain, which is what Google Analytics is tied to. So when somebody clicks on your booking engine link on bedandbreakfast.com to go directly into, let's say, your ResNexus booking engine on your website, well, Google Analytics is not going to pick up that traffic and tell you that, hey, bedandbreakfast.com just sent this person into your ResNexus booking engine who ended up booking this $600 reservation. And the reason is that it's completely bypassing your own domain, which is what your Google Analytics is set up with or tied to. And so a way around that is to set up your booking engine link as what's called a redirected link, where it basically redirects that person through your domain before automatically getting them into, again, the resnexus.com domain, which is your booking engine. And so that's a way to capture data on that traffic as well. So if your booking engine link with us is set up as a direct link into your booking engine, just know that your own Google Analytics isn't going to be picking up any of that traffic because we're totally bypassing your domain in that example. Okay. So that's something else to point out. Now on here you also see a link that says online booking, and that applies to any of our members that are participating in our online reservations program. So we can report to you the number of bookings that you are getting through our online reservations program. And so just to be clear, this online booking line item here refers to that. And then inquiries, that refers to people who have sent you an email reservation request by way of your listing on bedandbreakfast.com. It's not a confirmed reservation, it's just a request where they click the link to email you an inquiry through us. So this is all available to you. We email it to you once a month as well, and our support team is there to help on any of these questions you might have on the traffic reporting. Okay, so let's look at some traveler insights. There is a greater reliance these days for travelers to book online. Just still 1% of travelers are booking through a travel agent. We showed 19% that are booking over the phone and a full 80% that are booking online. We have a saying that we've always said, with innkeepers over all the years about talking about online reservations. One of the big objections that a lot of innkeepers have had over the years is that, well, I want to talk to my guest before they book. Well, the reality is as much as you may want to talk to your guest before they book you, your guest may not want to talk to you before they book you. They might be, at their office in their cubicle or something like that and can quickly jump on the internet and book a reservation online much more easily than they might be able to pick up the phone and give you a call and, hear all the details about the property and then book a reservation. So, we've been huge advocates for, over 10 years on taking online reservations just because you're really letting travelers book the way they want to book these days. And so that's how travelers want to book. Here's another question from our surveys, and this is also kind of breaking down the preferences in travelers in how they book based on their age. Okay, and so the younger the traveler, I think the higher the propensity to book online. The older the traveler, it seems to be more of a combination of speaking with the innkeeper and then also booking online. And then I think also, the older the traveler gets, 65 plus, a full 18% of those travelers just prefer to speak with the innkeeper when booking online. So just kind of, based on the travelers who use bedandbreakfast.com, this is what, the breakdown is according to our survey respondents in, how they like to book. And then I think fundamentally here, the takeaway is just that 65% of B&B travelers rate online booking as very important, or that they will not book without it. So if you're, not taking online reservations or still thinking about taking online reservations, according to our survey data, anyways, you're potentially, missing out on a full 65% of travelers who, really want to book online, or frankly will not book without the option to book online. So what makes your phone ring? We've talked about the various ways to track online reservations and revenue. What about the over-the-phone revenue? Well, this is a company that we were made familiar with about a year ago, I would say, a little over a year ago maybe. The company is called CallRail, and they provide call tracking software. And I think, there's different opinions out there among the experts on whether or not to utilize a service like this or not, with the crux of the issue relating to the phone number. So what this company will provide is a block of phone numbers that you can use, and you can apply one phone number to each of your individual advertising sources. And then say, you're using a unique phone number on bedandbreakfast.com, and someone finds you on bedandbreakfast.com, and they end up picking up the phone to call you to inquire about a reservation. Well, in this CallRail call tracking, they will tell you that, hey, you got a phone call to such and such phone number, which is the phone number that you use on the bedandbreakfast.com website. You don't have to get a bunch of different lines at your property. It just forwards the call or actual line. But by using these individual phone numbers like this, it allows this company to track the phone calls that you're getting from your various sources. So with, a lot of properties seeing, upwards of half of their reservations still happening over the phone, the other half happening over the internet through their booking engine on their website, well, this is going to give you, some more information, just some more data. Again, rather than asking your guests, hey, where did you find me? You can look at real data and see, okay, well, this person called such and such phone number, which is the phone number that I'm using on bedandbreakfast.com, so that I know, if nothing else, this person picked up the phone and called me because of their last stop, which might have been bedandbreakfast.com, because that's the phone number they called. And then what's kind of neat about this is that and this is maybe from a staff training perspective, but this service will record each of your phone calls. And let me back up and say, too, that it doesn't actually tell you each phone call that ends up being a reservation. What it does is it records each of your phone calls. And so then what you can do is you can go back and look at the data that this company provides, and you can see, okay, this particular phone call went for 20 minutes. Well, gosh, I bet that turned into a reservation. And then you can actually play the call. You can fast forward to the end of the call, and you can hear whether or not, okay, did this person ultimately end up booking a room or not? And so that's kind of how you can get, some much better data on your over-the-phone reservations. And then there's the benefit, too, of being able to, record those phone calls. So, perhaps you have some staff and, want to do some phone call sales training with them, or, listen to the phone calls, make sure that they are, representing your property as best as you would like them to be, and so forth. So CallRail, again, is just a pretty inexpensive option that's out there that helps you track where your over-the-phone reservations are coming from. And so we show that their starter package is just $30 a month. And, again, you can see a lot of great data. And so rather than, relying on that conversation with your guest on, hey, where did you find me? We are big advocates of using the actual data to support those answers. And so this is just another way to get some data on where your reservations are coming from. So the next section here is working with the OTAs, because again, any of you folks that are working with the OTAs and also using Google Analytics, and I guess just so in case nobody's aware, but OTAs stands for Online Travel Agent, and that is sites like Expedia, Hotels.com, Travelocity, Priceline, and all the big ones you've heard about. So those guys, as if you do work with them, as you probably know, they don't link to your website. They don't show your phone number. They want that traveler to book through them so that they can make a percentage of that reservation that is booked online through them. That's also why you don't pay the OTAs an annual fee. With bedandbreakfast.com, you pay an annual fee, and as a result, we provide a link to your website. We show your phone number. We link to your email address. We link to your booking engine on your website. We give the traveler every possible way to book a reservation with you. When it comes to the OTAs, they just provide their own option where, hey, if you want to book this property, you either have to book it through us, the OTA, or you have to go off to, Google likely and surf around to see if you can find that property's website yourself, and then maybe book with them directly. And what I just said there does happen. They actually call that the billboard effect, where a lot of folks will just go to an OTA knowing that the OTA is going to consolidate all of the information for them in one nicely presented page of information. So, maybe I'm going to Orlando. What's available in Orlando from November 1st to the 5th? Let me go to Expedia and see what they can show me. And so it's a nice, consolidated way for the traveler to search, but they may not always want to book through the OTA, so they can start their search there, but then be led down another path of say going to Google and doing a search for the Dewdrop Inn, and oh hey, there's the Dewdrop Inn's website. Let me see what their website looks like, and oh wow, I can actually book a reservation right here on their own website. Well, when that happens, you can and should attribute that revenue on that booking to the OTA, but you're never going to see that money coming through the OTA. So you're not going to pay a percentage on that reservation. You're also not going to see that the OTA directly referred that person to your website, because they're going to probably have to go to Google to find your website first before ultimately getting to you. So just know that in your Google Analytics, you're not going to be seeing this OTA data. You're really just seeing the data on the bookings that are happening through your own website. Excuse me. So bedandbreakfast.com, we are now actually owned by Expedia. Expedia owns Travelocity. They own Hotels.com. They own Orbitz.com. And so through our relationship with Expedia for, over 10 years now, we've been getting our members onto all of these sites. We do also work with Priceline. Priceline owns Kayak.com. And then we also work with the Sabre Travel Network as well, which is one of the 4 major GDS systems that travel agents are using to still book reservations. But the bottom line on our online reservations program is that by getting into it, you gain access to over 160 million extra travelers per month, and you don't pay anything for that exposure unless you actually get a booking. So it's kind of a very nice approach. We call it the pay to play, or the pay to play versus pay if they stay. The OTA example here is very much a pay if they stay type of advertising versus the pay to play type of advertising where you pay up front in hopes of getting reservations down the road. With the OTAs, you pay only if you get a reservation, in which case you're going to be paying a percentage of that reservation. So the Expedia translates their site. They've got over 100 different sites globally, translated into 33 different languages globally. So, in the vein of casting a wider net, boy, Expedia and some of these OTA sites can really help you cast a much wider net and appeal to a lot more travelers. So online reservations diversity. You need more than just a booking engine on your website. You also want to be on the OTAs. You want to have a strong SEO presence and be able to find different travelers from different segments of the traveling stratosphere. And you want to be global. So for example, bedandbreakfast.com translates its website into French, Italian, German, and Spanish, and so we are localized, as they say, for a lot of our international travelers using our site, so that if you're over in France and you pull up bedandbreakfast.com, you'll actually be able to read the website in your native French language. And so working with the OTAs is another great way to get some diversity out there and attract travelers from all around the world who may not understand or be able to read English here in the U.S., but can see your information on a site like Expedia or bedandbreakfast.com in their native language, helping them to more easily make that decision to stay with you. So Google says that the average traveler visits 22 different websites over 9.5 research sessions, spending about 55 minutes prior to making their reservation. So again, back to the whole, hey, guest, where did you find me? Oh, I found you on the internet. Well, of course you did, but gosh, what are the 22 different websites that you went to before you actually booked? No traveler in this world is ever going to be able to recite those 22 different websites to you, but according to Google's data, that is what they are seeing. That folks are literally going to 22 different sites over the span of 55 minutes as they research and book their travel. There's a lot of different studies out there too, but there's this Cornell study that talks about the billboard effect. They also say that for every one booking that you get through an OTA site like Expedia, there are another 3 to 9 reservations that are influenced by that OTA site as well. So again, the consolidated search where people can go there and look at all the properties that are available in Orlando from November 1st to the 4th, but maybe they don't book through Expedia. Maybe they prefer to book with you directly, or maybe they're not seeing the room type that they want on Expedia, so they want to do a little extra research and check out your website to see if you have any other rooms available through your own website. So just all kind of different examples and ways that people search. But I guess saying this a little differently, nobody wants to pay 15 or 20% on an online booking through a site like Expedia. But if you can the terms with the fact that for every one booking you get through a site like Expedia, and let's say this particular study is grossly exaggerated where they say 3 to 9 times. Let's say it's just 1 for 1. So for every one booking you get through Expedia, you get a second booking where the person saw you on Expedia but ended up booking with you directly. Well, in that example, your 20% commission on that one booking is now cut in half, and you're basically at 10% on those 2 bookings. So I think it makes it a lot more palatable on those commissions that you pay the OTAs to understand that you're not all the people that find you on the OTA are going to book you through the OTA. So why are guests booking on bedandbreakfast.com? I always thought that this particular data was interesting, but 30% of our reservations that happen through our website happen between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. So hopefully when you're catching up on some rest after your long day of work, we're still sending you reservations. We've also got 20% of our reservations that are booked through our site happen on the same day as the arrival. So I guess the point to make there is that we offer a setting in our online reservations program that we call the cutoff, where if you don't want same day bookings, you can specify in these settings that I don't want any of these bookings unless they are booked 1 day in advance, or even 2 days in advance, or however many days you want. Just know that 20% of our bookings happen on the same day. So if you've got this cutoff setting in place where you won't accept same-day bookings, then you're basically missing out on 20% of the bookings that we would like to send to you, because there are 20% of our bookings that happen on the same day as arrival. So give some thought to your cutoff policy, and I know it's a little bit tricky to accept a same-day booking, but if you can do that, you're opening your doors up to another 20% potential in those online reservations. And then another 15 to 20% of our reservations happen on a mobile device. So bedandbreakfast.com has been optimized to be a responsive website where it looks at the device that's trying to access the website and then serves our website in a format that best fits that device. So the point here is really just talk to your webmaster about your own website. Is it mobile friendly? That's probably the best general question to ask. And then maybe from there you can say, okay, if it's mobile friendly, is it responsive? Because a responsive website is what the experts say that you want. So you're not using an m.dewdropin domain, which is a totally different domain. It's still your dewdropin.com domain. It's just looking at the device that the person is accessing your site from to serve the best format of that website to that traveler based on the device that they are using. Okay, so that's kind of the point on this one. So what are these commissions like? BedandBreakfast.com historically has always offered two options, where it's 8% if you give us all your rooms all the time and say, hey, sell whatever you can for us, or it's been 12% where if you want to limit your inventory, you just show whatever, maybe Sundays through Thursdays if you want to, but you don't have to show any peak dates or anything like that. And so you, in exchange for the flexibility of showing the inventory you want when you want, you do pay a little higher commission. Well, we've now moved to a format where it's just, and this slide is out of date, but it's actually just 10% now. So whether you show all your rooms or just very limited inventory, we're now just offering one 10% option. Keep in mind that we process the credit card on that booking. So the 2 or 3% that you typically pay yourself to run the credit card, that's part of that 10%. So effectively, you're paying more like 7 or 8% on the booking. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then when it comes to our partners that we work with, we've got a 20% option with Expedia and Hotels.com and Travelocity. Again, that 20% is really more like 17 or 18%. For the credit card processing reason. So there is actually an option if you want. You can go work directly with Expedia for 15%, but you're going to process the credit card yourself. So that 15% then becomes 17 or 18%, assuming you're paying 2 or 3% to charge that card yourself. Whereas the 20% option that we offer, although it sounds like it's 5% more on the surface, it's actually the same cost for the same reason, because you're not having to process the credit card. And so just kind of keep that in mind that, I think there's a lot of different information that's floating around out there. But our 20% option is effectively the same as the 15% option that's available if you go directly with Expedia. And our option actually gets you more exposure because you get access to Expedia's affiliate network, whereas if you're working directly with them as what they call a hotel collect property, you actually don't get the access to their affiliate network. So they have, as they say, thousands of different affiliate sites around the world that they distribute information to. And so if you're in that Expedia affiliate network, you get that access. If you're not, you don't. And so, just different things to keep in mind. But with our program, you don't pay the credit card fees, so it saves you the 2 or 3% there. There's also we connect seamlessly with reservation software, Think reservation software, and ResNexus software by way of a company called MyAllocator. And so there are some connectivity options that enable you to seamlessly manage your inventory because, gosh, if there's one thing, I know most innkeepers do not like doing, and that's managing multiple sets of the same inventory, because then, you're at risk for that, ever dreaded double booking scenario. And so if you put it all in one place and manage it all through your software, you shouldn't ever run into those double booking options. So what are the benefits of working with us on the OTAs? Is you have full control there. You show the inventory you want when you want. You don't pay anything unless you get a booking. You can manage it through your software. You get the guest contact information, so we'll give you the guest's email address as well as their phone number at the time of the booking, so that you can make any special arrangements with the guest for dietary restrictions or give directions to the property, that kind of thing. And then again, you pay only if they stay. So you can do all of this and not spend a dime unless you get a reservation. So I think it's pretty nice from that standpoint. I would also point out, too, that not all of these options are created equally. And so looking at this, you can kind of see here some of the different options that are available to connect to the OTAs. So the first option is just connecting directly, let's say, to Expedia, where you go to Expedia, you connect with them directly, you pay that 15%, you also pay to process the credit card, and then you have to manage your inventory. And so in this particular example, this is what you are paying, this is what you are making. If you're going onto the OTAs by way of a GDS connection through your property management software company, most of those options are going to charge the same 15%. Most of them are also going to charge an initial setup fee, and then followed by an annual fee, and then a per transaction fee, and then you're also paying to process the credit card. And all the while getting lower distribution and visibility on the OTAs because they try to drive more reservations to the properties that they work with directly versus the GDS type of bookings. So in this particular example, you're paying $4,200 versus the $2,700 you were paying in the first example. And then there's also options where other property management software companies will connect directly to the OTAs. So you can seamlessly manage your inventory, but that's also that hotel collect option where you're charged the 15% commission. You're also paying to process the credit card yourself. And then some of the property management software companies will actually charge a 3% transaction fee or a dollar amount transaction fee, where you're paying basically for the technology that the software provider has created to enable you to manage your inventory seamlessly. Excuse me. So, if you're wondering why you're paying the extra 3%, it's because, the property management software company spent some time and resources and money developing their connection to the OTA. And so, that's something where, a lot of folks will charge extra for. Reservation and BedandBreakfast.com, we don't charge anything extra. It's just the straight commission that you pay the OTA. And so again, these are just 4 different examples about 4 different ways that you can connect to the OTAs, all showing you that they're not all created the same in terms of what your final cost ends up being. So as you're looking at all this stuff, I would just challenge you to really do your research and ask around and get different quotes from different folks, because you'll find that the pricing has a pretty wide disparity across the board. And so it's not just about your cost though either. If you're managing this through a software program, which might cost you more, it does save you time, which is priceless. Because again, I don't think any innkeeper out there got into this business just to sit in front of a computer all day and manage reservations and inventory. So some of the options out there can make that a lot more easy for you. So the goal is just to manage one calendar. That option exists. You can be on all the OTAs, taking bookings through your own website and everywhere else, and do it all from one calendar. But it's you got to find that option. We offer something similar to that. A couple other companies do as well. Think Reservations and ResNexus. And so you want to free up your time and put this all in one place. So enough about the OTAs. Your website also plays an important role too. There are 95% of our travelers who respond to our surveys are telling us that one of the big reasons they stay with a B&B is because of the interaction with the innkeeper. So you are targeting that B&B enthusiast. Okay, 85% of those guys travel by car to B&Bs within 300 miles of where they live. 78% travel with their significant other. 75% are 35 plus years old or older. And so just to kind of give you an idea of who's using our site, this is it. This is what we call the B&B enthusiast. And so, in light of the fact that so many of our survey respondents are travelers, tell us that they, are staying with you because of you. We think there's a couple of websites out there that do a great job of highlighting the fact that the experience with the innkeeper is a very positive experience. This is the Iris Inn in Virginia, and just a great property. And the Lanfords do an amazing job, and I think this just shows, how jovial and how fun they are, and I think it does a great job of showing the warmth of hospitality that they offer. This next screen here also shows more about Dave and Heidi and, what they offer there, and just, gives a personal touch to, what you guys offer that a hotel will never be able to compete with. And so I think these are good examples of, highlighting how great you are, because you are great, and that's why travelers stay with you. What else do travelers want? They want that free breakfast, the free Wi-Fi. If you think about staying at a hotel, you're not very likely to get free breakfast. You're probably going to pay, $15 to $20 for your breakfast. You're probably going to pay, $10 a day for that Wi-Fi access. You might have to pay to park. You might have to pay $5 for that bottle of water, which you're probably going to offer them for free. And so, travelers want, the character that you offer, the good value, and so forth, the intimacy and everything. And so we've always been huge advocates of the fact that breakfast is the second part of your name. It's the second B. And gosh, in particular on our diamond collection inspections, we'll see a lot of properties that aren't, doing a great job on their website of highlighting how amazing their breakfast offering is. And there's a ton of value there. You guys do a great job with your, gourmet breakfasts, and it's all part of the rate for staying there. And so, you really need to spell out that value. This particular property, the Archcape Inn out in Washington, there has got Oregon. They've got their free luxury amenities that they highlight right here on their homepage, showing travelers that hey, you get these various amenities. And so I think it's if a traveler has historically stayed at hotels, they may not be aware of all of the great value and amenities that you offer as part of your rate. And so these are all things that can help assist you in your ability to convert that looker into a booker. Okay, so you want to highlight your great amenities that you offer, and it just gives the traveler all the more reason to stay with you, because after all, conversion equals revenue. And so if you're getting so many visitors to your site each month and your conversion rate is just 1%, well, this is what what you're looking like here. But if you increase that conversion to just 1.5%, you've increased your annual income or gross revenue on this particular example by 50%. So again, we always say it's a lot easier to increase conversion than it is to increase traffic to your website. By and large, you have to pay for traffic, but with conversion, a lot of that relates to just different ways you present your website that ultimately will help it convert better. So I think the last part of this is about photography, which can also help you get a great ROI. Photography is the number 2 piece of requested information on bedandbreakfast.com. So number 1 is reviews. Travelers want to see what other travelers have to say, because for some reason they trust what other travelers have to say about you more so than they trust what you have to say about you. And so consumer reviews, they've been a part of our business for a long time, but that's the number 1. Number 2 is photos. Number 3 is that you offer a flexible cancellation policy, and number 4 is that you can offer, or that you have professional recommendations, such as a AAA rating or a Diamond Collection rating, Forbes, or what have you. But photos are the number 2 piece of requested information by travelers using our site, and I think that makes perfect sense, because after all, as the old saying goes, a photo's worth 1,000 words, right? People can see your photo and make a snap judgment much more easily than they can reading a paragraph about your property. Okay, and I'm running out of time here. I've got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to try to speed through the last part of this. But photography is one of your key assets. We see in our data that properties who have more photos on bedandbreakfast.com get more traffic to their listings on bedandbreakfast.com. A professional photographer can't be, the importance of a professional photographer can't be understated. There are some folks out there that do an amazing job, and really you can see it in their work. Not that you can't take a great photo yourself these days with a digital camera or an iPhone. In fact, I've got a slide coming up here that talks about that. But a professional photographer really can do an amazing job. This is one of the blog postings from Jumping Rocks Photography, where they talk about doing awesome food photos with any camera. So they talk about doing it with your iPhone or your digital SLR. But JumpingRocks.com is a great website. They've got a lot of great tips for the do-it-yourselfers out there from a photography standpoint. So check out their site. Focus on your intention. So your website should strive to capture, where the breakfast is served and the ambience that surrounds that. What type of food you offer and the flexibility you have there. How it's being prepared for all the foodies out there, and then a successful photo that can convey all of that, or some of that anyways, in the photo. So this is from Jumping Rock's website as well, but they kind of give an idea on how to stage your food for a food photo. And so it kind of gives you an idea here. And again, this is taken from their website, so you can check it out on jumpingrocks.com. But they give some tips, I think some pretty helpful tips on how to do some good food photos. This next slide here, this is showing you 2 different images, the exact same image, One is taken with a digital SLR, the other is taken with an iPhone. They're pretty close. So, if you don't have some, expensive camera and, a high quality digital SLR type camera, your iPhone's got a great camera in it also. And just looking here, you can kind of see the similarities between the two photos. Even though one was taken with a digital SLR, the other was taken with an iPhone. So 10 practical tips here. So quality over quantity. One bad photo can really change the perception of the traveler. Um, Choosing the appropriate lighting. Be careful to use people in your shots. Travelers don't necessarily want to see other people enjoying the property they're thinking about enjoying. They want to kind of picture themselves enjoying the property. So kind of think about that. There's Staging can take a great or a good photo to great. Avoid tricky camera angles like fisheye lenses or wide angle. Just use honest photography. Get rid of the timestamps that you used to see on the old digital cameras. The words or arrows or that kind of thing that you do with Photoshop. Post the highest resolution photos you have. It used to be that you had to use, images that were optimized for the internet so that they would download faster. Well, now everybody has high-speed internet, so there's no concern there. So use high-quality images as opposed to grainy images. Add captions to let guests know what they're seeing. Another reason to use captions is that the search engines can't see the photo, but they can see the text that goes along with the photo. So maybe use like an alt tag or captions to explain what the photo is. And then food photos are notoriously difficult. So look at the Jumping Rocks website and get some tips on doing food photos. And then again, when all else fails, hire a professional. So set the mood and draw them in. Again, your website is your greatest marketing asset, and so try to draw them in with that imagery that really pops when they get to your homepage, and that's going to really draw them in. BedandBreakfast.com is now using an image of one of our Diamond Collection members as the backdrop to our homepage, kind of from an aspirational travel standpoint. We want to inspire people to get away to these great properties that we work with. And so set the mood and draw them in. Kill the mood and scare them away. So if you have photos like this on your website where you're showing, the bidet that they're going to get to use and other folks have likely used, well, that's probably not the best use of your photography. Maybe you're at a fishing lodge in Alaska and you offer fishing. Well, probably better to use a photo that doesn't show the fish dying with blood dripping down your hand. There's probably a better image you can use there. So, again, kill the mood and scare them away. Set the mood and draw them in. I've got some more examples of the scare them away images. So, here's a photo of where you can see the person in the photo who's taking the photo. This second photo has a pretty scary looking monster hidden behind the chair there. So, gosh, what's going to happen when you sit down there? And then here's along the lines of, showing other guests enjoying your property. If this is a picture of your hot tub on your website, well, the traveler's probably thinking to themselves, oh, great, these other people, and who knows how many other people have used this hot tub that I might be using. And so I think leaving folks out of the pictures makes a lot of sense. And then this last image is a fisheye lens, and you can just see how everything is bent in the image. So use honest photography there. And those, believe it or not, were all photos taken from the BedandBreakfast.com website that various properties have used over the years. This kind of along the lines of ROI as well, but this is talking about some of the makeovers we've seen some of our properties where they get a good return on their makeover without spending a ton of money. So this is the after photo of the Carroll Villa Hotel in New Jersey. Here's the before photo. And so you can see just, by updating the room, making it more modern looking and having that modern appeal might help you draw in some more guests. And so these guys, they just refresh the room. Here's the after, here's the before. And so you can see the differences there. Same thing here. This is the after photo. And you can see here, this particular property used to have wallpaper on the walls, and they actually, as I understand, painted right over the wallpaper. It's the Jacob Hill Inn up in Seekonk, Mass. Here's the before picture. So there's the wallpaper that got painted over and the flowery drapes and curtains that were removed. Again, here's the after photo. So, some pretty easy updating here. that I think will provide a good ROI. Here's another after photo. After photo. This is the Red Forest in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and they've updated their kitchen. Here's the before photo. Okay, so again, I think a guest seeing you cook in this kitchen is going to have a different impression versus seeing you cook in this kitchen. And so I think it's another example of where you can get some good ROI on some renovations. So in summary here, think about the content on your site and your main directories, and make sure that all of your information is up to date and accurate, and is giving you the best representation of your property. Don't downplay the value you offer. Really promote it, because gosh, innkeepers offer so much value. I mean, heck, you are the concierge that likely doesn't expect to be tipped. You are the source of information, on all things local and happening there that your travelers are going to love, and they can learn all about from you. You know what to do and where to do it, and so you offer a great breakfast. You offer a very intimate experience, but you're also mindful of guests' privacy, and so all of these things are things that you can highlight to travelers who are thinking about staying with you. All the amenities that you offer that are part of your rate. Highlight all of that stuff. The last little part here is don't use the same copy on directories that you use on your own website. And that's very important too. You don't want to use what Google considers to be duplicate content, because then it ends up confusing the search engine. And so don't spend all this great time on the copy for your website and then just go copy and paste it on all the directories. You actually want to be using unique content on all your different directories. And so that I think wraps it up here. And yeah, there's me. And so thank you so much for attending. If you do have any questions, that is my email address there. That is also my direct phone number. So you can feel free to give me a call, and I am very glad to help or answer any additional questions you have. And Patty, if you're still here, thank you so much for the opportunity to present this webinar that we wanted to give down in Florida. Thanks for everything. Thanks for having us. And there you go.